things get very interesting about now. We're going to look at the phrase wrath of God, which the Christian church as a whole has said God is the direct active agent of violence. After all, it's his wrath. How does the Bible use the word wrath of God? The wrath of God is described through the same ancient world view. When something wrathful happens, it's attributed back to God as if he was doing it because he's the direct active agent of violence. But this wrath of God is connected with violence that comes through the other gods of other nations when Israel went to unite with them and worship them. These other gods of other nations dumped violence onto them. When they did, this was called the wrath of God, because what God allows, wrath, is described as him actively doing. Moses was about to die. He wasn't going over into the promised land. The Israelites were. And God calls Moses up and tells him in the book of Deuteronomy, all one sermon, by the way, the farewell sermon of Moses, I want you to say this to the Israelites. Just before you die, and what they are going to do to me, to God, as they go into the promised land. And in this passage, God will speak about other gods and the wrath of God, and how the Israelites already understood what the phrase wrath of God means in connection with these other violent gods that they wanted to be united with and worship. Deuteronomy 31, 16 and 17 in the NIV. We're going to take this phrase by phrase. It's really important. And the Lord said to Moses, you will rest with your ancestors. You're going to die. And then this people will prostitute themselves to the foreign gods of the land they are entering. Prostituting, sexual union, intimacy, oneness. They're supposed to be one with me. They're going to abandon me. And they're going to follow the other gods to be intimately united with them, prostituting. They will prostitute themselves to the foreign gods of the land they are entering. They will abandon me, you see that? And break the covenant I made with them. Then, when is then? When they abandon me and follow after the foreign gods in the land of Canaan. Now, these are the baddies, remember? They were initially they were good. Go back to the previous videos. Then they became bad because they wanted to be worshipped. And here it says they wanted to be worshipped. They wanted to follow after these foreign gods. Then, when they abandon me and unite into union with the foreign gods, then my anger will flare against them. When does the wrath of God arise? When his people abandon him and unite with the other violent gods. Then my anger will flare against them. The wrath of God in the Old Testament is directly connected with worshipping other violent gods and abandoning God. The wrath of God takes place when his people abandon him and follow the other gods of the nations who are violent and are going to strike them. Look, then my anger will flare against them. What will happen in his anger? I will reject them. He leaves and hide my face from them. The wrath of God is not divine violence. It's divine hiding, divine withdrawal. Then my anger will flare against them when they go after the other gods, and I will reject them, and I will hide my face from them. What's the wrath of God? It's not divine violence. It's divine hiding and withdrawal. When God is with them, his shield and wall of protection is around them. When he withdraws, they're exposed to attack from the other gods they are seeking. Look what it says. Then my anger will flare against them, and I will reject them, and I will hide my face from them. When he hides his face, he withdraws. They will be destroyed. And many disasters and troubles will come upon them. Why? Through divine attack? With divine hiding and withdrawal. The wall of protection is gone, and troubles will come. The wrath of God does not describe God as the direct active agent of violence. It does not describe divine violence. It describes the consequences that will come from outside sources through divine withdrawal. There's no protection anymore. Wow. This is the first time the wrath of God is defined in the Bible. And it doesn't mean that God attacks anyone. It means divine hiding, withdrawal, wall of protection gone, bang, disasters free to hit. When? Only when they seek after the gods of the nations who are violent, as we've already seen and will continue to see. So when the gods of the other nations strike, it's because you have united yourself to them. You've said, God, get lost. I don't want you in my life anymore. At that point, God consents. Because as love, he will not coerce you. He will not force his will onto your will, and your will be done. Tragically and sadly breaks his heart. He will withdraw. He will hide in his wrath. I have friends who are very mature, much more mature than me, and I've seen them in action when a bad situation arises. And in their anger, they don't attack. They will just hold their breath and they'll walk away. These are the really mature people I know. Divine wrath is divine withdrawal, not divine violence. And the violence will come from the violent gods who can now hit you because God has removed his protective presence. I am suggesting that when we read of the wrath of God in the Old Testament, this is the definition, and it says so. Every single time it's not God attacking, and when it seems like God is attacking, what God allows is described as him actively doing. Are you starting to get this now? And I will make this explicit with you when we go back to the flood. I will hide my face from them, and they will be destroyed, and many disasters and troubles will be able to come upon them. And then on that day, when God withdraws because they've gone to other gods, and God's protective presence is gone, on that day, when God withdraws, they will ask, Israel, did these disasters happen because our God is no longer with us? See? They even knew. Now, the NIV's put a question mark on the end, which means they're wondering. But if you go to the original Hebrew, and if you look at the English Standard Version, if you look at the New King James Version and the New American Standard Bible, they'll all say all these things happened to us because our God is not with us. And even the NIV says it suggests that God is not with us. That's why it's happened. This reveals that the wrath of God is passive, divine withdrawal. With divine protection removed, evil rushes in. What evil? Where from? The harm Israel experiences when God withdraws is tied to the gods they have pursued. And this is how the wrath of God works in the Bible. It is always divine withdrawal, withdrawal of protection, and then attack from the other gods. Are these gods of the other nations real beings? Well, we've already seen they are. They were part of the heavenly council. The book of Daniel will pick up these gods. In chapter 10, they are mentioned in chapter 4 and in chapter 10, and we're going to see they are real beings. Some of the gods who remained faithful are called the Watchers on the heavenly council. And the other ones are spirit princes who are still in charge of their nations, but they're violent. Next time.